Once again, Gabby, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this panel for our Library Services Technician 1 position. As you know, we have assigned our competencies so that we all both know what we should be looking and listening for during the interview. Our first candidate today is Courtney Weston. I'm going to go ahead and bring her in now. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good
How are you?
morning. Hi.
I'm Leticia. Very nice
Hi.
to meet you.
I'm Gabby, nice to
Hello.
meet you.
Excellent. All right, please have a seat. Good morning. Thank you for coming in today. You are here today to interview for the Library Services Technician 1 position. Before we get started with the interview, I will share a few details about the position. So in this position, you will be a part-time 20-hour Library Services Technician 1. Hours are divided during the week, so you may have a 4-hour shift anywhere between a Monday through Friday, and with alternating weekends. As far as responsibilities are concerned, this position is responsible for checking in and checking out materials, registering and updating patron records, operating a cash register to collect fines and fees, handling and resolving patron inquiries, and assisting with technology. As far as our team is, we have 4 Library Services Technician 1 team members and myself as a supervisor, so you will be in constant communication with your peers, and there may be opportunities where you would be interacting with other library staff and other levels of management as well. Is this the position for which you have applied?
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started by asking you some general questions about your background, and we will ask more questions related to your experience based on your responses. We will give you some time at the end of the interview to ask any questions you may have.
Okay.
All right, I'll begin with our first question. What are you looking for in this opportunity?
So I currently work in the customer service field, and I really like the public, so I wanted to expand my library experience.
What about this position intrigued you?
So, like I said, I currently work at a library, and I really like working with the public. I grew up in libraries going as a child, and there's a lot of benefits and aspects about the library people don't know about. So I really want to be able to expose the community to those benefits.
Why is serving the public important to you?
I just think that there's a lot that the library can offer, and I think it's important that the community is educated on those offers and those different programmings that we have.
Okay, now we will move on to the next question. Please take a couple of minutes to briefly review and discuss your work history and major responsibilities over the past 5 to 10 years. Please mention any achievements or recognition you have received. And we will start with your position at Apple as a technical advisor. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Sure. I worked at Apple from June of 2017 to January of 2018, and I was a technical advisor there. So my job consisted of answering phone calls. It was a call center environment. People would call in with problems they had with their devices, and I would help troubleshoot those problems for them.
With regards to the environment that you worked in, you said it was a call center environment. What was your relationship like with your supervisor as far as communication?
So we worked mixed schedules, so that meant that my supervisor wasn't there all the time when I was there. So most of our communication was done via email, or I would leave post-it notes on her desk, or she would leave post-it notes on my desk.
Can you tell me about a time when you've taken the motivation to streamline a process?
At Apple, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I did to streamline a process. I can't think of anything.
Okay, no problem. Now, in the environment that you were in, a lot of the customers that you served were over the phone, I imagine, or online. Can you tell us about a time that you went the extra mile for one of your customers?
Most of the customers would call and were really upset about whatever was wrong with their device. They pay a lot of money for Apple products, and so they were really unhappy when they weren't working properly. So people would call and they would be upset, and I would just try to do my best to calm them down. I didn't really have a whole lot of authority to do anything extra to make them happier. So I just try to do the best I could to de-escalate their situation, but I was never really allowed to go above and beyond.
Yeah, okay.
Can you tell me about a time when you had to handle an irate customer, when you had to escalate it, and at what point you would escalate it?
So typically with Apple, I wasn't, my supervisor wasn't there. We had a separate line that we called for just other call center supervisors. They weren't my direct supervisor. So I would just forward the phone call to them if someone started to get irate, like yelling or cussing or something like that.
All right, we'll move on to the next, your most recent position rather. So you were most recently a customer service specialist associate at Richland Library. Can you tell us about your experience there?
So at Richland, I usually work at the circ desk, and my duties are checking in and out books. I process and catalog books and different types of shipments. I also weed the shelves and send books to the repository using their collection headquarters system. I also work on some of the various children and adult programming, and I started an anime club. And I'm also considered the go-to person for technology.
Okay.
Can you tell me about how you encouraged active participation in your anime club?
So I came up with this idea to create an anime club because I'm really interested in it, and I thought maybe other people would be too. So I asked some of my teammates or team co-workers if they would be willing to help me make this anime club. I was lucky that a lot of people I work with are also interested in that topic, so they were very willing to come help me.
Excellent. So working at the circ desk at Richland, were you responsible for a cash register?
I did. I had a cash register I was on.
Okay. And does that mean that you opened your cash register in the morning and did any deposits, or did you just manage on a daily?
I did not open the register. Usually that was done by the supervisor before we got our shift started, but at the end of the shift, or maybe at the end of the day, or at shift change, I would have to count down my register to make sure that everything was correct.
Okay, perfect. You also mentioned that you are the go-to technology person. What types of technology would you assist your team with?
Well, because of Apple, I have a lot of experience troubleshooting the different devices. So I helped most people or patrons, or even some of my coworkers, when they had problems with their computers or patrons had problems with their tablets. I would troubleshoot their tablets for them.
Okay. Do you have any experience working with technology when it relates to office equipment?
Do you mean like computers and copiers?
Computers, copiers, fax machines, scanners?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Perfect. Now moving from the Apple, in that industry and moving to public service in a library system, how did you learn your new responsibilities in your role as a customer service specialist, and what training have you engaged in?
So the library had a customer service training that all new employees had to do, and it trained us on how to use their ILS system and just how to have general customer service skills. But anything outside of that I just did on my own. So I Googled things, or I look up YouTube videos and try to learn about the library system that way.
As a technology guru, did you ever train any of your peers to troubleshoot things?
So I train them on things that happen frequently. So if there's a particular situation that is always happening with people's devices, I've taught my coworkers how to troubleshoot that so they don't have to come get me every time. But some of the more difficult things that take a lot of steps, I just keep that information to myself and they come ask me.
Okay. Alright.
Our next question is about major projects and accomplishments. Can you take about 2 to 3 minutes and tell us about a major project that you've worked on and that you're proud of?
Something that I'm really proud of is completing my bachelor's degree online while also working full-time at Apple.
How did you manage your time with that? What tools did you use to help manage your time?
So it was an online university, and they have a lot of programs and different apps and things that you can use through the university to help manage your time, like calendars that tell you when your assignments are due and reminders and things like that. So I used that a lot. It also, doing both my online degree and working full-time, I really had to have self-discipline and know when to say no to friends, or when I knew when I had to actually put my nose in the book and study and complete my assignments.
Is there a major project or accomplishment that is work related that you're quite proud of?
I'd have to say the anime club. It took a lot of work to get that together. It's a weekly club that we do. I've been doing it for about 6 months or so. So it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of thinking to come up with something new and interesting every week. So I'm pretty proud of that club.
Can you walk us through your process? How did that anime club come to be? What was your role in creating this club?
So I was the one that came up with the idea and I created it. I had to get my supervisor's approval first in order to start actually doing the club and organizing it. Once I got her approval, I reached out to some of my teammates that I knew were also interested in anime, and they were willing to help me. And so we just brainstormed together and we collaborate together and we try to come up with new ideas and make sure that it's done in time for the weekly club meeting.
Okay. How long would you say did it take you to plan out the future of this anime club, and how have you promoted that within your community?
We create flyers to promote it within the community, and then we also try to talk to people whenever they come in if they're kind of going towards that category of book, or they maybe even come ask if there's a new anime book or a new video or something that's out about it. We'll try to mention that we have this club, and the entire process to actually get the whole thing started was probably about a month, because I also don't work very frequently with my supervisor at the library, so we had to kind of juggle our schedules to be able to sit down and actually have a conversation about how the anime club was going to work. So it took about a month to create and get the first meeting going.
Were there any challenges you faced while organizing this club, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is trying to come up with something new every week. Usually the people who are coming to this club are young adults, teenagers, maybe people in their early 20s, and their attention to the club can fizzle out. So we try to come up with creative ideas, and I think that's the hardest part, just trying to stay interesting.
We're going to move on to a question about performance objectives. One of the major performance objectives for this position is having the ability to make a judgment call in a fast-paced environment. Please tell us how you have handled this or would approach this.
So Apple was an extremely fast-paced job, we had to answer our phone calls and resolve their issues within a certain time frame. I believe it was 3 minutes. So I had to juggle a lot of things at one time. They would call in. I would have to figure out what their issue was, search for a way to solve that problem. We also tried to promote different products that would fit with whatever device I already have. So I'm trying to promote a product, search for an answer on their problem with their device, and then also navigate through multiple databases to find all this information.
And with your responsibilities at the library, you were a full-time employee there. How did you manage your tasks, especially when it came to planning the anime club, multitasking, prioritizing your work?
So my supervisor pretty much sets all of my tasks for the day or the week, and I just follow those tasks. Once I'm finished with that, I usually have about an hour, a couple of days a week here and there to work on the anime club. So I just do my tasks, and then when I have that free hour, I work on the anime club.
Can you tell us about a time that you made a mistake? What was the mistake and what did you do to resolve it?
So one time, working on the cash register, I was counting down at the end of my shift, and I realized that I was $1 short. I didn't know how that happened. Their system allows you to go back and see different receipts and when you used cash or when it was done by a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back. There was only a couple of people that day who had paid their fines with cash. And then I remembered this one particular woman, when I gave her change, she kind of gave me a funny look. So I went back to that transaction and saw that I'd given her, or I assumed that I had given her more change. So I went to my supervisor. I told her that I'd accidentally given someone extra change and that my register was going to be off.
Okay. And how did she take that feedback from you?
She was glad that I found it and could pinpoint where it came from,
Mm-hmm.
and she just told me to be more careful next time.
Great. So having had that occur, what have you done to ensure that that does not happen again?
So when I'm counting out change, I make sure that I kind of rub the bills together to make sure nothing was stuck, because I think that's what happened when I gave her the extra money, is that there were 2 bills stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to make sure that I'm counting out and being more careful and paying attention.
Has there been a time when you've been unable to meet a deadline, and how did you handle that?
I pretty much meet all deadlines.
All right. Now, on your application, you indicated that you had experience using Microsoft Office products, specifically Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and SharePoint. Can you tell us about what type of work you've done on Excel?
In my bachelor's program, we had to use Excel quite a bit for different program or different classes that I had. So I'm familiar with how to do formulas and pivot tables.
Mm-hmm.
And then also at Richland Library, we use Excel for our timesheets.
Gotcha. And SharePoint here in our library system is what we use kind of as our intranet. What experience? Can you tell us about your experience with SharePoint?
When I was in college, we had a team project where we used SharePoint, and that's how we shared our documents. So one person would be working on the PowerPoint, another person would be working on a Word document, and we would post it on SharePoint and collaborate there.
Can you tell me how familiar you are with Outlook and which features you're familiar with, such as task management or calendar?
In my current job at Richland, we use Outlook for our regular email. I pretty much only use the calendar feature of Outlook, just to kind of track my tasks and meetings and things like that.
You also indicated on your application that you are proficient in smartphone, tablet, or iPad and e-readers. Can you talk about that? In what capacity you use those items?
So aside from the Apple products and troubleshooting those there, I have my own e-reader. I have a Kindle that I use personally, and then I help troubleshoot tablets and e-readers at Richland Library.
Okay.
Do you have any experience with any of the library applications such as Hoopla, Libby, Overdrive?
I've heard of Hoopla before, and I've helped people install the application on their device, but I'm not sure of the other two.
Okay. You also indicated that you have experience using room reservation software. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I've used Events to book rooms and to schedule meetings and conference rooms.
Okay. All right.
A challenge that we're currently experiencing is the ability to call and discern when situations need to be escalated to a supervisor. Can you explain how you would handle this type of situation?
Sure. So one time working at the desk, people check out their books, of course, and whenever they're checking out, I'm looking for if they have fines or fees that are outstanding that they need to pay. And I always try to ask them or get them to pay before they can check out their book. Sometimes people don't like to pay their fees or their fines, so they don't believe that they should have been charged those fees or fines, and they get upset. So when that happens, I usually just go get my supervisor and tell them that somebody is upset and that they don't want to pay their fee.
We are now finished with our questions to you. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, the job ad mentioned outreach, and I was just kind of wondering what I would be responsible regarding that.
Sure. So in the library system, we all have a commitment to outreach. We have actually a department, a unit that's called the Office of Programming and Outreach. And so they work with points of contact in our community and within the county to identify opportunities where staff can go and promote library services. These outreach opportunities might be manning a booth at the mall, it might be manning a booth at a festival, participating in a parade, things of that nature. So when those opportunities arise, usually that department will send out an announcement and ask for staff to participate in those. There is also outreach that is done within each branch, where we have staff that will work with, for example, elementary schools, back to school night, and participate in their back to school night and help promote library services. Especially important also during our summer reading program, we do a lot of outreach with our community to engage participation in our literacy programs. So those might be some things that you might be responsible for doing.
Okay. I also wanted to know what the timeline is for making a decision on this position.
Excellent. So we're looking to make a decision on this position very soon. We have 2 more days of interviews, and once we conclude the interviews, we will let our top candidate know of the selection via email. So we have confirmed that your email is active based on the confirmation of this interview today. And if you are selected, you would be receiving a conviction questionnaire email from us, and once we receive a successful or satisfactory conviction questionnaire, we would make an offer and check references and move on to the next step. As far as timeline in terms of how many days, we might be looking at about a week or 2.
Okay. And do you know what the salary range is for this position, or if it's negotiable?
So the offer and it being negotiated depends on the top candidate's experience and education. So, do you have any other questions for us?
No, that's it.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right.